I sat down to make a video and I had no idea what to make one about, which happens pretty frequently. I just sit, stare at the screen, and something comes. But in this case, I happened to just read a comment, and I thought it was such a great comment, that I thought I would do the video about that. Question or comment comes from Gracefilled. It says, Angelo, is this resistance the same sensation in the body I feel in deep shame and fear shadow work? It definitely feels like it. Like somehow things won't work out for me. Is the resistance the same sensation in the body I feel in deep shame and fear shadow work? So I think I understand the structure of the question itself. I was maybe slightly confused by the wording, but I think I can address it. And if not, I'm going to address a different question because it's a good one that I'm interpreting it as. So I want to point out that the feeling of shame, the feeling of psychological fear, not necessarily physiologic fear, like the moment you're almost in a car accident or someone's chasing you with a knife, that intense physiologic experience. That's not what I mean. I mean psychological fear, but shame and a sense of self-doubt, self-hatred, all these things that come up in the deeper shadow work, and the resistance that comes up with them. I think this person's asking, are they essentially the same thing? Or are they continuous with one another? Or are they the equivalent to shadow work? And I've addressed this in a few videos recently, but I don't know if I've talked about it this way or this specifically. But I want to point out that the resistance and the sensation at the core of any emotional experience, any resistance pattern, any repressed emotion, any unmet need, any shadow material, there is a sensation at the core or a set of sensations. The sensations are not the resistance pattern themselves. However, when all is said and done, the last distinction made, or I could say maybe the last, it's not so much a distinction. It's kind of like the last point of clarity often in the shadow space is seeing that the resistance and the sensation are not the same thing. But you can't just hear me say that and believe it, and it's just like done. It doesn't work that way. You have to actually get down to it, right? Which means you're going to have to go down through the shame. You're going to have to go down through all of the beliefs and worries about the shame and all the distractions around avoiding even feeling that you have a strong sense of shame, driving the whole personality structure, like all of that. Those are layer after layer above what I'm talking about. But when you really get down to it, it'll be an intense experience of sensation and resistance. And they will feel like the same thing. They'll feel like either like they're intertwined or they're literally just the same. And they're not at all, actually. The resistance, by the way, isn't something you're ever going to like pick up and just see it and go, oh, there's resistance. Let me toss it out of the way. It's not like that. But you will clarify the sensation. You will get to the point where the sensation is just what it is. It's pure sensation, perfectly settled, perfectly at peace, quite freeing, actually. Crystal clear, equanimous, neutral, non-dualistic. That is where you will ultimately find yourself when you really do this deepest shadow work, this deepest layer. But what leads to that is seeing that the resistance and the sensation aren't the same thing. In my recent series that I did for the Patron Circle members, the courses, Final Fetters, I was talking about the ninth fetter, that intense energetic that's associated with the ninth fetter. That is this. It is surprisingly intense, even after all of the other layers of identity have dropped away. When it's settled, though, you find yourself in a place of peace and equanimity that you never thought was possible. It's such a beautiful place. You're so fully inhabiting your life, so fully inhabiting the sensation, so fully inhabiting just being alive And also that the non-dualistic clarity is so pristine and enjoyable and deep and empty. It's beautiful. But yeah, the road to that, or the distinction that ultimately gets made, is to see so closely, look so closely, feel so closely into these resistant spaces, to these sensations, that you uncouple the sensation from the resistance to the sensation. You uncouple the sensation from the fundamental sense that you have to get away from it at all costs, including building a self-structure, the vehicle for dissociation, the vehicle to get away, the vehicle to create a world that doesn't exist, to convince yourself that you have a certain kind of agency that you don't have because it's based on what you are not. To make yourself feel, it's like you're kind of settling for the scraps, to make yourself feel like you can do something about this without really getting to the root and seeing the whole reason you feel like you have to do something about it is because you have a deep sense of self-doubt, shame, and so forth. All of that is built on top of this. So once you're down to this, those structures have gone. You may see them try to reify here and there a little bit, but for the most part, you just don't have them. And even getting to that place can be really scary because you feel like you're losing all your coping mechanisms. You feel like you're losing a lot. You're not really losing anything, but it feels like it. But once you're right down to that energetic, that resistance that's so direct, it's like a live wire, actually. You're in a good place. And again, I'm just going to keep saying it because it's a very, very simple thing, but it has to be explored in a very intimate way for it to finally uncouple. And what uncouples is the sensation from the sense that I have to do anything I possibly can to get away from the sensation. And that's not a thought. It seems so fundamental. It is fundamental to the sense of self, actually, to the sense of a separate entity. But it's not fundamental to nature itself. It's not fundamental to, let's just say, the unconditioned. It's extra. It's added on. It's the first extra. It's the first add-on. The first movement of avoidance, of resistance. The first movement of no, saying no to life, no to experience, no to everything. And so, yeah, ultimately, all this comes down to is being able to feel that sensation fully, unequivocally, and without any need to leave it whatsoever. Seeing that anything that feels like resistance is just added. It's just a habit. And you don't actually need to follow that trail. You don't need to believe any of the associated beliefs, even though they're unconscious beliefs. They're very buried here, deeply buried. Like, I can't handle this. I need to get away from this. I need to do something about this. Something needs to be done. There's something wrong. These are very deeply sort of hidden beliefs. They're encoded in these behaviors, these psychological behaviors, these internal behaviors, which can become external behaviors. But at this level, it's really just an internal process, or it feels that way. It feels like a strong energetic. So this is what it's about, seeing that the sensation itself and the resistance are not two. And that ultimately the resistance, this is very strange, but when you see it, it's really obvious. The resistance isn't actually to a sensation. The resistance is to a reflection of the sensation. It's to a thought, but it's a non-conceptual thought. You could say it's the first thought. I would say it's the first thought. It's a thought before a self. It's the thought before duality. It's the first thought. That's a reflection of a sense. In my book, I describe how thoughts are the consciousness is reflective in nature. It can reflect a sense gate, and it can reflect other thoughts. We're talking about the most fundamental reflective nature of thought, reflecting a sensation. This probably starts when you're born. It probably starts before you're born. This very subtle ability of the mind to just create a simple facsimile. Yeah, just a little flash. And then the resistance can come to the flash. The resistance can come to the facsimile. But there will never actually be resistance to sensation because there's nothing to resist it. It's just sensation, non-dualistic. Just like sound, shapes, colors, forms, all of it. apparent forms. They just appear. They don't appear somewhere. They don't appear to something. Yeah. So there's no resistance there. The resistance is in the reflection. The resistance is in the ability to pull back just a little bit, or seemingly pull back. There's no back to pull, but it's a reflection in the mind. The mind can start to imagine back and forward, away from and toward, and so forth. And that's where the resistance comes. But it's in regard to a sensation, meaning the reflected, the most subtle, that first thought, the most subtle reflected thought is a reflection of a sensation. It is sensation that we're ultimately, quote unquote, doing something about by resisting. So hopefully that's helpful.